He appears. How's it going, guys? It's me, Quinn from Quinn's Ideas, which is the YouTube channel that you're watching the stream on right now. How's it going, everybody? Please let me know how my visuals and sound are, as always. Let me mute my phone so it doesn't play my voice. Hi, guys. How's it going? So you can probably tell by the title and thumbnail of this stream what the topic is going to be. And actually, let me plug in my headphones if I'm going to actually have them so I can hear myself. Oh, that's a lot better. Now I can actually hear myself speaking. So thanks everyone for showing up and joining me. I saw that quite a few of you were waiting before the stream even started in the chat. How's everyone's night going, or morning, or afternoon? I know it's time zones don't mean much when you're on the internet at this point in history. How's it going, guys? You guys ready to talk some Lovecraft? As I was saying, everyone's saying it looks and sounds good. We're finally getting the hang of this, because a lot of times, like, I start the streams in the beginning and like the audio is wonky. It's not set to the right mic or whatever, but it looks like everything is going good right now. So yeah, today is a very, very special day. This is kind of a preemptive stream in a lot of ways, because I'm getting ready to dive into a lot more H.P. Lovecraft content on this channel. I've covered it a little bit before. I've talked about H.P. Lovecraft in relation to A Song of Ice and Fire. I have I've referenced it in a bunch of my Song of Ice and Fire theory videos. I did a podcast episode a long time ago with Order of the Great Hand talking about just pulling out little bits of Lovecraft that show up in A Song of Ice and Fire. And then also a few months ago, I did one of my most favorite videos ever, which was the At the Mountains of Madness video essay, which was me covering one of Lovecraft's most famous and most awesome stories. But yeah, today we're going to be focusing on a more specific Lovecraft topic. There's a lot of interest in H.P. Lovecraft these days, I noticed. It's interesting. Just a little bit about Lovecraft. The guy was a weird dude for sure. He wrote some terrifying stories, though. He was never famous while he was alive. In fact, he kind of like struggled his entire life. He kind of lived a rough life. I mean, if you really get into his history, and he definitely had some mental issues. He was a little bit definitely agoraphobic, definitely bit xenophobic for sure. Had issues with women. He lived in a different state from his wife. So the guy had issues. And the guy had certain specific fears. He feared things that weren't familiar to him, right? And that's obvious the more you learn about his life. And that does come through in his stories. Like, a lot of people, I feel like I need to say this because a lot of people say there's a lot of hubbub from a lot of different sides about Lovecraft. So I just feel like I need to say this before we get started. When it comes to the work of Lovecraft, right? He's not going on, as I said in my last stream, he's not going on racist diatribes in the stories, right? You don't read Lovecraft stories and find like long sections about like why certain groups of people are inferior or like horrible, or read horrible things. It's just not there, right? He is, however, a product of his time. So when you read Lovecraft, you have to put it in context as someone that was writing stories in like the 1920s. And yeah, exactly. Someone just said Edgar Allan Poe was also very weird. Yes, Edgar Allan Poe is very weird. A lot of horror writers are weird in general, but yeah, he was a strange dude. We can separate the art from the person, but also acknowledge when we are reading his work where certain prejudices and ideas might peek in. Because I'm not saying that they don't ever. It's important to acknowledge them when they do, and that doesn't mean we have to throw away the entire canon of Lovecraft. Because I feel like if you're going to criticize Lovecraft for certain things, you have to criticize a lot. We would be throwing away a lot. We'd be throwing away a lot. I mean, I feel like people at this point, for some reason, want to single out Lovecraft for some reason, as though he is especially bad, right? Which I don't agree with at all. There's a lot of way worse stuff that gets celebrated and pushed a lot of way worse people that are like remembered way more fondly. Like no one ever talks about Walt Disney and all of the crazy things that he thought and believed. No one ever talks about that. So it's like why are we singling out Lovecraft? I feel like when it comes to this kind of outrage, it's very selective. And I really and when it comes to selective outrage, for me it strikes me as like kind of disingenuous. Because it's like if you're mad about that, why aren't you mad about the other thing? Someone says Ultimate Guide to Chapter House Do and Win. That will be my next big video after the Call of Cthulhu video. That will be the next one. So, like I said, this stream is preemptive. We're going to introduce everybody to the work of Lovecraft, get into the nitty gritty. Specifically, in this stream, we're going to be talking about the great old ones, of Lovecraftian lore. All right, so just before I get started completely, I just wanted to say this as well. I have not seen Lovecraft Country, all right? I do want to get the book. I tried to order it from Amazon, but like if you haven't been paying attention to the news, then you know that like the American postal system is kind of a mess right now. So Amazon is kind of a mess right now. So like the book wouldn't get here until like next month if I ordered it. So I'm gonna have to like at some point make a trip down to Barnes and Noble and see if I can hunt down Lovecraft Country, because I really just don't have any real interest in watching the show before I read the book, right? So I gotta get the book, read it, and then I will watch the show. And I hear it's fantastic, and I have nothing against it, but no spoilers for Lovecraft Country. But yeah, let's move on. And as always, guys, if you are enjoying the stream, I know we just started, but hit the like button. It really helps get things circulated and going. And yeah, without further ado, let's talk about the great old ones. So, where do we start with the great old ones? These are beings. A lot of people like to call them gods, but they're not really gods. They are beings that were brought into existence eons ago. We don't even really know exactly how long ago. And their essential form is their essential mode of communication is thought. They communicate normally through thought, right? So you would assume that their essential core of being is thought, right? So they are beings of consciousness that sometimes take form, and they existed eons and eons and eons and eons before mankind ever existed, possibly before Earth was even fully formed, most likely before Earth was even fully formed. Some of them might have even existed at the dawn of time, in the very beginning, possibly even before the creation of the universe, because these are Lovecraft's like it's not necessarily so straightforward, because Lovecraft likes to deal with things that are kind of outside of time, outside of normal space, outside of normal existence. So when I say existed before the universe, take it with a grain of salt. It's not really meant for you to understand, and that's kind of where a little bit of the terror comes from. But anyways, at some point, the great old ones came to Earth, and the Earth was theirs, and they ruled it, and it was their dominion. There are also other beings that weren't them, right? Lesser beings. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the old ones themselves did not die. At least they didn't die in any real way that we would call death. What we do know is that they were extremely bound to cosmic will. The cosmic alignment was everything. And that is the position of the stars, the position of the planets. When the stars were right, they could leap and travel from world to world with ease and go wherever they want, do as they pleased. But when the stars were wrong, they could not live. They could not be. At least not be in the physical way. At least not be alive to dominate in the same way. All right. So that's just setting up where they come from and letting you know that they got to Earth. So, like I said, they got to Earth, the great old ones, very, 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 very early. This was long before mankind was ever even dreamed of. It's not specifically said how long ago, of course. Hello, Gray Area. How's it going? Thanks for joining me. So it's not said exactly how long ago they got to Earth, but eons ago and long before humankind had. And it says in Lovecraft's body of work that they brought their images with them. So if you look at the thumbnail for this live stream, that is artwork by Behringer, who did this book, who colored and drew this adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's The Call of Cthulhu. And I'll just show you one of the images here so I can explain a little bit better what I mean by they brought their images with them. So in the body of Lovecraft's work, throughout the world, you find idols, strange idols. I hope you guys can see that pretty clearly. It's a bas-relief. It's kind of a sculpture, a statue of Cthulhu. Throughout the world in H.P. Lovecraft's work, they find these strange idols. They're made of no stone that they know of. It's not an earthly stone, because the gods, the old ones, brought their images to Earth with them, right? And at some point during their dominion of Earth, long, long, long ago, the stars changed. The stars shifted. And the gods, the old ones, foresaw their doom. They saw that they would soon no longer be able to live. So they all went to their city, R'lyeh. And here's where it gets really, really cool. This is where Cthulhu comes into play, actually. Let's take a pause and let's talk about the most famous Lovecraftian Great Old One just for a second, because he is very important when it comes to what happened to the gods when the stars changed, what happened to the old ones when the stars changed and they were still on Earth. So Cthulhu is actually referred to in the Call of Cthulhu as the Great Priest, right? And it in fact says it is his spells that preserved the Great Old Ones in R'lyeh. So we can assume that Cthulhu was a leader of the Old Ones. And so when the stars changed, they went to R'lyeh, the corpse city as they called it, which was this strange, strange city with weird angles, made of strange stone from beyond the stars. If you looked at it, you wouldn't be able to comprehend it, right? Concave becomes convex, angles shift. It's not like you're looking past things into other dimension. It is, spaces don't make sense in this city. They make sense possibly to these beings, well, certainly to these beings, but to the human mind, they wouldn't make sense. All right, so they went to the city. They entombed themselves, and they waited. They waited, and they waited, and they waited, while the stars changed, and they couldn't live. And in their great city of R'lyeh, they spoke to each other in thought. And as thousands and thousands and thousands of years passed, millions of years, eons passed, at some point, humans developed consciousness. And the gods, the old ones, whose form of communication is a language of pure thought, they spoke to the first men in their dreams. Now, I actually have a specific quote, which I don't have pulled up for some reason, so I would just like grab it from here. At some point, humans develop. We'll take a pause right there so I can grab this specific quote and talk, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into what I mean by spoke to mankind in their dreams. So that should be right here. So this is a quote from the Call of Cthulhu, and I'll read this for you guys. So at some point in the Call of Cthulhu, we encounter a cult. They're dancing in the woods, worshiping an idol, and this is basically what we learned from this cult. They worshipped, so they said, the great old ones, who lived ages before there were any men, and who came to the young world from out of the sky. Those old ones were gone now, inside the earth and under the sea. But their dead bodies had told their secrets in dreams to the first men, who formed a cult which had never died. This was that cult. This was that cult, and the prisoner said it had always existed and always would exist. hidden in distant wastes and dark places all over the world, until the time came when the great priest Cthulhu from under his dark house and the mighty city of Relay under the waters would rise again to bring the earth again beneath his sway. All right. So they spoke to the first men in dreams. All right. And there's a lot of stuff. A lot of people believe that a lot of human ideas, like sudden ideas that you have, originate in dreams, right? That is like as though you're like pulling it from like some kind of ethereal realm. Well, we know that in the body of H.P. Lovecraft, this is certainly true, right? So the gods spoke to the first men, and they inspired the formation of this cult, this religion, and they showed the men where their idols were. They guided them to the idols that they could worship before, the idols that the gods brought from the stars, and they gave them to them, and they said, bow before us. And one day, when the stars are right, you can awaken us, right? And it says specifically that there were certain arts that would awaken the gods. So it wouldn't just happen. That is the purpose of the cult, essentially. The Church of the Starry Wisdom, yada, yada, yada. It is to, when the stars align, when the stars are right, they would be the ones that were ready to awaken the great old ones, right? And this is the way it worked for many, many eons while humanity developed, with this cult secretly doing their dark works, right? The gods speaking to them in their dreams, influencing them, teaching them. But then something happened one day, and we don't know why. There was never given an explanation to why this happened. One day, the great city Relay inexplicably sank beneath the waves. And there's another quote that I gotta read because it's really, really good. It's really, really good because something essential was lost when the city sank. And if I could just find it. Here we go. So Relay sunk into the waves. In the elder times, chosen men had talked with the entombed old ones in dreams. But then something had happened. The great stone city Relay, with its monoliths and I don't know how to say that word, H.P. Lovecraft. It's some kind of architectural term that I won't even bother butchering. Monoliths and, obelisks and stuff like that. The great stone city of Relay had sunk beneath the waves and the deep waters, full of the one primal mystery through which not even thought can pass, had cut off the spectral intercourse. So, something about the ocean, something about the nature of the ocean, blocked the gods' spectral intercourse with mankind, and they could no longer communicate. And let's pause and go all the way back. And I got to say thank you to XY Tech for sending me a super chat. Thank you so much. $10 super chat.
Super interesting so far, man.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Just a Dream, thank you so much for your super chat as well. And thank you guys so much for watching me. If you're enjoying the stream so far, hit the like button. And also, the best way to support this channel is through the paypal.me link in the description. Thank you guys so much for being here. Now, moving on. We just did get a PayPal from Mark Williams. Thank you so much, Mark Williams, for your $15 PayPal. All right. So where were we? We were talking about Relay sinking beneath the waves. So the more I think about, let's just pause here before we talk about what that means and what happened after that, and maybe why it happened and all that jazz. Definitely, I want to talk about this. Lovecraft was definitely a huge fan of he was definitely a huge fan of Atlantis myths, right? And actually, in the Call of Cthulhu, and I'm not going to be able to find this right now, he actually mentions a specific historical work which talks about the Atlantis myth, right? So you have this great city Relay sinking beneath the waves inexplicably and disappearing. And this is also kind of an idea that's repeated in the Mountains of Madness, which I also covered. Not exactly a sunken city, but a hidden city a hidden ancient city of great technology and great mystery that kind of is forgotten and lost to time. So right, so he was definitely a fan of those types of ideas, which I find um, endlessly compelling. All right, so anyway, the ocean, the ocean, the ocean. So Lovecraft calls the sea, the ocean, a great primal mystery which even the realm of thought couldn't penetrate, right? Not even the old ones could speak, at least not to men through the ocean, right? But the memory of them was never lost. The cult members, they had the sculptures, they had the idols that the gods had brought with them from the stars. They had the wisdom that had been passed down and gathered. They had the Necronomicon, which had been written by the mad Arab Abdul what you thinking that, which is a whole other story. We're not going to talk about the Necronomicon right yet. I do got a copy of the Necronomicon right here, but we're not going to get into that just yet. So the information, the knowledge of the old ones was never lost. Was never lost. And the cult knew that one day the stars would realign and they would be there to awaken the great old ones, and the old ones would continue their dominion of Earth. All right, so I got a super chat. Looking forward to your novel. Thank you, your team, and mods for all the hard work on your channel. Cheers. Thank you so much for your super chat, and thank you so much for watching. So much for watching. Now, I mentioned earlier that there are the great old ones. Um, and really, the great old ones actually refers to, I think, a greater body of beings that are than the ones that are bound and relay on Earth, right? But it's a little bit inconsistent because we like to talk about Lovecraft's shared universe, but like I don't know if he was. It's not like super meticulous like some other people's shared universe. Like there's a few discrepancies, right? But we can imagine that the great old ones that are bound on Earth are not all of them. There are other ones that exist in other places beyond the stars, in other dimensions, in other places. These are the specific ones that are bound to Earth. And I talked about in the beginning about there being beings that were like them, but separate from them. All right, so let's pull up the Call of Cthulhu again because there's a great example of such. There's two examples of such beings mentioned in the Call of Cthulhu. They mention my Song of Ice and Fire buddies will get a kick out of this one. There's, of course, the deep ones. And you can see the deep ones here. And the sleeping Cthulhu, dead, dreaming in his house that relay. So the deep ones, they're not mortal. They're not gods. They're some kind of in between. And then also in the Call of Cthulhu, the other beings that are mentioned, which I find really cool, are these winged bat monsters, right? So there's a section in the Call of Cthulhu when our main character is doing research about the cult and Cthulhu and his origins and what this is. We learn about a time somewhere, I think it was in South America, there was all this ruckus. There were the local people had called the cops and they said someone has to come and help because there's a crazy cult out in the forest somewhere and they've been kidnapping people. Wild screams have been heard. We don't know what's going on. So they go up here and what they see, there's another good art here that I got to show you. It's really cool. And by the way, I mentioned this book too. This is Behringer's H.P. Lovecraft fully illustrated. This is what they find. They are dancing, singing, chanting in this flame circle. And there's a stone pillar in the center. And at the very top is a tiny sculpture of Cthulhu. Now, the cult kept the old ways. It is said when the old ones rose, you'd be able to tell when they were coming, because the earth would fall into madness, where every person would just revel in their own pleasure and violence, murder and death and sex and everything would just be wild and crazy, killing each other and just wild seeking of pleasure and craziness. And that would be when the time. The cult kept those ways, but always in secret, in twisted, dark, shadowy corners of the world. So this is unique. Why are they doing this here? Why are they doing this now? Well, you learn at some point another type of being had come up and kind of talked to the cult, communed with them. And it says these dark, winged spirits of earth had come up from the deepest, darkest, forgotten caverns within the earth, from beneath forgotten seabeds, and flown up to speak of dark, twisted rumors of things to come. So, in my opinion, although it's not said straight up in the Call of Cthulhu, these bat winged creatures came to the cult to tell them that the old ones were waking up again because they knew it and they could feel it. The stars were aligning again. And it's actually said in the Call of Cthulhu, the cult members, they don't take responsibility for all the deaths. They actually say that it was the winged things that did that. It was the winged things that made those sacrifices. And there's also another being that's mentioned very briefly in here, some kind of strange, ancient entity that lived at the bottom of a lake. And this is what the bat winged things worshipped. And they said to look upon the thing was death. Now, that seems different somehow from the great old ones. It seems like the old ones are really, really bound to the alignment of the stars, and there's something else here. So that's what I mean. There's various entities from the winged bat things to whatever that strange entity is that lived at the bottom of the lake to Cthulhu. So yeah. So I missed a few super chats, so I got to go back and get all of these, and then we'll get to talking about some other things, and then I'll check the PayPal and make sure I got everything there. So Brent Gordon says, this is my intro to Lovecraft other than Cthulhu from South Park. Thanks, and I love your content, Quinn. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thanks everyone that's watching right now. I love you guys so much. I'm always down to talk about some horror. Horror is my favorite genre. There's something about horror, specifically cosmic horror, that really, really just I find very, very intriguing. And we'll get in a little bit more into like what the actual definition of cosmic horror is in a minute after I get these super chats. I just need to make a note of that. Because cosmic horror is something that Lovecraft certainly popularized, but it's something that's used in a lot of other bodies of work. A lot of people use cosmic horror now. And I have a few examples of that I want to talk about as well. Okay, so Reaver45 says, I love your stuff, Quinn. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Reaver45. I'm glad that you guys are joining me. Thank you for your super chat. 21st Century Afro Pollution. I love your name. My brother, I have been following you for years now since Ice and Fire days. You inspired a lot of my reading habits, especially fantasy and sci-fi. Well, thank you so much for sticking with me and joining me and listening to me ramble on about different books, and it's greatly appreciated. 45-ish, hello, says, hi, thank you. Says, hi, found you via Dune and stayed for Lovecraft. Well, thank you so much. Lots and lots more people have been telling me that recently, that they found my channel because of Dune and stayed for other things. That's really, really awesome, because I plan on continuing to cover, as I said, more Lovecraft, because I have like all of his work. I've read almost all of his stories at this point. And there's a lot to be talked about. So we're going to continue down this Lovecraft train as the channel continues and as I continue to develop and grow and diversify my channel. So Nate Craig, thank you for your super chat as well. Thanks for streaming on my birthday. Happy birthday, Nate. Making it inadvertently one of the most interesting to date. I love your work, so keep it up. Well, that's very, very flattering. The fact of me streaming is making your birthday more interesting. That's really, really epic. And I think that's all the super chats I got right now. And we're gonna real quick check PayPal. And looks like we do got some more here to just look at real quick. Apps on phones are so annoying sometimes, guys. Right, so right after I get these last two, we're gonna start talking about cosmic horror and what exactly cosmic horror is and what it means. So I got a PayPal from James Bo Girl, I can't say names, guys. You know what the deal is. Thank you so much, James, for your $10 PayPal. And thank you so much, Chris, as well, for your $10 PayPal. It is greatly appreciated. Um, Internet, don't slow up now. James says, just discovered the channel, love the Dune content, and enjoying the stream. Thank you so much, James. Did Chris say anything? Chris didn't leave a message. Did Mark say anything? I didn't check before. Okay. Thank you guys so much. All right, moving on. We're moving on. All right. Cosmic horror. Cosmic horror. Let's talk about cosmic horror. So, cosmic horror is the horror of essentially the unknown, but in the sense of the universe. What is waiting out there in the dark? What so it's the Dune quote, what senses do we lack that we cannot see a hidden world all around us? What was here before us? What will be here after us? What is here right now that we can't interpret or experience and see? Does it care about us? Is it a danger to us? It's the fear of not knowing, right? What Lovecraft does very effectively is he implies the mystery, he implies the terror, but he rarely ever shows it directly. In fact, the Call of Cthulhu is one of the only examples where you actually see like an old one in its form take a true form and like just be there on Earth. It's usually just the implication of what could happen. And that's ultimately where Cthulhu ends at, right? It's when they come, it will be terrible, right? And it's also the mystery of what do they do when they come. So we talked about the cult, right? You might ask yourself, what exactly does the cult have to gain from worshiping the old ones? Well, exactly, right. It's kind of twisted, right? It's You would imagine that certain they've been promised certain things. They believe they can gain power, and it's also mentioned that there's different divisions in the cult. The sect of the cult that I actually just showed you from this book that appears in the Call of Cthulhu is actually mentioned to be a separate form of the cult. There is the main part of the cult that exists somewhere, I think, in the Middle East, somewhere in the desert, actually, and which is the main part of the cult, and that is the actual part of the cult that is in possession of the original Necronomicon, which was written by the Mad Arab. So you might ask yourself, what are they having to gain from it? Um, I don't know. But I mean, I imagine that they think they have something to gain. But in reality, the old ones, the gods, what is a human to them except for but a method to escape? The gods didn't whisper to the first men in their dreams because, oh, we want to make friends. It's not like the Christian God where it's like I create a bunch of things because I want something to love me. It's it's the gods just want to be free to do whatever it is that they do and to revel in whatever things that they do. And humans are a mere insignificant speck, right? When these things return, when Cthulhu wakes up, he is here to reshape the earth, reshape the world in his image, whatever that image is. And the fact that we can't see clearly what that image is terrifying. And then also the idea that our dominion, our quote unquote dominion over the earth, is tremendously fragile. At any point, something that is more ancient than anything that we can even conceive, and more intelligent than anything that we can conceive, and more powerful than anything that we could conceive, could just come and just destroy us immediately. So that is, I guess, the gist of cosmic horror. The gist of cosmic horror, the idea that there's things beyond us, things beyond our control that are malevolent, and not even malevolent often, just kind of indifference. Because indifference, amorality is just as bad. Like the same way you carelessly swat a mosquito, right? You're not consciously thinking, let me murder this mosquito, let me smack this mosquito and murder it. You think, oh, it's kind of annoying, flick. That is essentially how the great old ones would see humanity. Oh, it's kind of annoying, flick. um, and so throughout the body of work, when you have different characters that piece together certain pieces of information. There are old ones, the existence of these beings, and oftentimes their minds are broken, especially if they stare directly into the abyss. And this is a good point to talk about. Nietzsche said, if you stare into the abyss stares back at you. And Lovecraft took that to heart because one of the this is a trope now, but this is something that Lovecraft pretty much invented. Um, you stare into the face of an old one. You stare into the face of infinity, something you cannot understand or comprehend, something that is beyond you, and it breaks your mind. The abyss stares back into your soul. Right, that happens in the Mountains of Madness. You see, they escape that terrible city and that thing that was there that we don't know. But one character looks back and he loses his sanity. Right, that happens in the Call of Cthulhu. They escape the relay in the end. They sail away. One guy looks back and he loses his mind. So I mentioned in the Mountains of Madness too the biblical story of Lot and his wife. So everyone knows the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. It's kind of a wild, crazy story if you think about it, but that's not the point. Basically, the cities were destroyed, and God said, "Don't look back. Do not look back." Lot's wife looked back and was turned into a pillar of salt. So in the same way, we see that in so many Lovecraft stories, and it's become a trope. Like Stephen King used it in It a bunch. Like you have the one bully character that stares to the deadlights and goes crazy, or uh, Bill's wife stares at its true form without any of the mask, and she sees it just as it is, and she goes crazy because it's certain like. So that's another element of cosmic horror. We like to think as humans that we can know anything, we can understand anything. If we just acquire enough knowledge, if we could only have enough knowledge, we could figure anything out. But Lovecraft says no, no, there are things that are beyond your little minds to even conceive. And I can't help that this is me speaking. I can't help but think that that has to be true, right? I can't help but think and believe that there are things in our universe and in our reality that are so complex and so just beyond that our minds can't comprehend it, right? We're conscious beings, yes, but we're really just like we're little monkeys with like little squishy wet brains, and the universe is a vast, 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 vast place, infinite darkness in all directions, and who knows what's out there, right? Um, so me and Dave actually, LML, we actually just watched a Doctor Who episode, which is like probably one of my favorite Doctor Who episodes called Midnight, right? And definitely some Lovecraftian elements here. So he's on this planet, and before this planet was kind of colonized, they built like a resort there or something. Before that, no one had ever even been in the system. It had just been circling around a lonely star since the dawn of time. No life, nothing, nothing. But there is something there, and whatever it is, it's unlike anything that could ever have existed. So the point is, you have certain characters in the episode that reject the idea that anything could exist because they're so grounded to like the sense of what they know. They're like, no, life is this, life is this, this is what life is. Life has these characteristics. But what do we really know? Life could take endless forms. Like life could take forms beyond our conceptualization or understanding, right? Um, so that was I guess the key point of that. One of the themes of that Doctor Who episode, and that's also a Lovecraftian idea that we don't really understand, and maybe we can't even understand. Whew. All right, guys. Ugh. So yeah, that's that. What are you guys saying in the chat before we get into the next section? You guys enjoying the stream so far? What do you guys think so far? So do I got any of you guys new to Lovecraft? So I know a few of you guys said this was your intro to Lovecraft. But yeah, let's just ask the chat real quick. How many of you guys have read the work of Lovecraft before? Or I know you've heard of him. You're watching the stream, but have any of you like read some of his stories? What are some of your favorite stories? I would probably say my favorites are The Call of Cthulhu, which is a short story. If you're going to read The Call of Cthulhu, I definitely recommend this one. Behringer, illustrated on every page, brings it to life in a new way. Also, The Dunwich Horror is a really good one. Mountains of Madness is a really good one. The Color Out of Space is a great short story. So yeah, a lot of people saying they haven't read it. Some people saying they have. Currently reading it. Nope, this is my intro, says Maud Mary. Awesome. Someone says I finished at the Mountains of Madness today. Cool. See, Mountains of Madness is definitely an excellent one. And like I said, you can check out my video on that one. Um, yeah, because like I really, really like the idea of like something being hidden on Earth that we haven't discovered. And that was something that it's kind of an idea that you can only play with. And kind of the time in which Lovecraft was playing with these ideas is kind of the latest time, like the 1920s, because right now we've explored everything. So I like the idea of like if you're going to tell these types of stories, like take it back a couple hundred years when we hadn't explored everything. Um, Lovecraft very and smartly put that tale in Antarctica, like a very remote place that we didn't know a lot about then, and still kind of there's mysteries. But yeah, Dunwich Horror. The Doom That Came to Sarnoff, someone said, really, really good one. Mountains of Madness, Dunwich Horror. I really like as well uh, Dream Quest for Unknown Kadath. Dream Quest for Unknown Kadath is an excellent Lovecraft story. So a lot of people don't like horror, which I understand. I understand, but Dream Quest for Unknown Kadath is actually a pretty interesting Lovecraft story, and I actually have here I think a graphic novel version of Dream Quest. So this is a Lovecraft book that I had. This is drawn by Coolbard. Coolbard. Hope I'm saying that right. This is a graphic novel adaptation of 4 Lovecraft stories, and one of them is Dream Quest for Unknown Kadath. And the reason that I like this story a lot is because it's not really a horror story. It's kind of like a twisted fairy tale fantasy story about this guy that goes on a quest through his dreams. He's looking for this golden city. And oh, it's such a trippy, definitely some spooky parts. But yeah, I get the sense what I wanted to get to was the weird way the story just kind of flows like a dream is very reminiscent of, well, not even, I can't say that's wrong context. I should say, because I'm going to mention Neil Gaiman's Sandman is what I'm getting to. I definitely think that Neil Gaiman was influenced by Dream Quest for Unknown Kadath because the dreamy way his stories flow in Sandman, it's just like this. Just the weirdness of it, the mystery of it, just brilliant. That's one of my favorite stories for sure. The Shadow over Innsmouth. That's a really good one. That's a really good one. Deep ones, man. The deep ones are endlessly interesting too. I know a lot of my Song of Ice and Fire people really get into the deep ones. And actually me and LML are going to do a stream on Euron and the deep ones and all of that Lovecraft, the Song of Ice and Fire stuff at some point. It's really, really cool because George R. R. Martin is someone that definitely loves Lovecraft. He uses a lot of Lovecraft language. I was just reading that passage earlier in the stream about the first men and the gods whispering their secrets to the first men in dreams. It almost sounds like that could come right out of a Song of Ice and Fire. It's pretty freaking amazing. It's pretty freaking amazing. Let's see. I got a super chat real quick, and I'll check my PayPal right after this as well. And by the way, guys, the best way to support Quinn's ideas, to support this channel, is through PayPal because YouTube super chats are a little wonky. They take like huge percentages, but everything is greatly appreciated. Donnell People says, have you read Lovecraft Country or seen the show premiere? It piqued my interest and I'd like your thoughts if you have. I have not read it. I said in the beginning of the stream that I have not read Lovecraft Country. I'm going to read it as soon as I can. I'm going to head down to Barnes & Noble and get my copy of it. I've heard the synopsis. I'm very, very intrigued by Lovecraft Country. So basically it takes place in the civil rights era, and you've got like a black sci-fi nerd guy, which like, oh, it's me. And there's Lovecraft stuff happening, and he's like realizing it because he's like a fan of, so that's definitely like something I get into for sure. So I'm looking forward to reading that book and then later watching the show for sure. All right. So someone says, I found Cthulhu playing Dungeons and Dragons in 1981. Is that a thing? You can Cthulhu in Dungeons and Dragons? I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know what it's all about, but that's real cool. Danica sent me to see you, and I never left. Thank you for your work. Oh, that's awesome. I love Danica. Comic Book Girl 19. Oh, she got me into Dune. She's awesome. I love Danica. And real quick, let me just check to make sure that I didn't miss anything on PayPal because it doesn't send me the notification. Always refresh. All right, and looks like we are good. All right, we are going to move on. So let's talk about, I said I was going to talk about some people that have been influenced by Lovecraft. Now, I really enjoyed in my last stream. Oh, dang, I don't have that book over here. Right back. I'll be right back. All right, guys. Alrighty. So we were talking about George R. Martin and how he was influenced by Lovecraft. But as I was saying, we're going to do a stream with LML at some point. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of all that. But I want to talk about someone else that has been very influenced by the work of Lovecraft. That is Stephen King. Stephen King loves Lovecraft. And it's, of course, he would, the greatest. Stephen King is, in my opinion, the greatest modern horror author, like, period. I'm sorry if you don't agree, but that's my opinion. So it's amazing to me, and I love the fact, and it's, of course, the greatest modern author would love, one of the greatest horror authors of all time. So let's talk about it, because I talked about it in my last stream, and a lot of people really liked it. So in Stephen King's book, this being, which in the movies and junk, it's always a clown, which the clown is one of the forms that it takes, but that's not what it is. This thing is a cosmic being of, I don't even know how to describe it. And even though it is defeated in the book, I mean, it's not even clear whether, it seems to me, honestly, that in it, what happens is the children banish the physical form that it took on Earth, but it definitely still exists somewhere else in like a realm of thought or something. It lives. As Stephen King says, there's just a lot of hints that it's still alive. Anyway, this thing, that the children eventually refer to as it, came to Earth, just like a Lovecraftian god, from beyond, right? It came from beyond millions of years ago. Sound familiar? Before humanity ever got there. Sound familiar? And it waited. It waited beneath the earth and dreamed. And when men finally came to Earth, it called them to its place, and the town Derry was formed. And this was a town that was shaped in this creature's image. It was this creature's killing pin. So essentially what we have here in Stephen King's work is a Lovecraftian eldritch horror that is waiting and dreaming and communicating in a language of thought in the exact same way as the great old ones in Lovecraft's works do. So it is essentially Stephen King's Lovecraft take. I mean, a lot of his books have those elements, but this is one where it really sticks out to me. And of course, there's a lot of that in the Dark Tower series. It shows up all over the place, essentially. I've been reading even something like Stephen King's 11/22/63. You can see the Lovecraft influence, the fear of the unknown, the fear of what is waiting, So yeah, Stephen King, so much Lovecraft influence, and I absolutely love it. And then also, what Stephen King does that Lovecraft didn't do, and I talked about this last time, is that Stephen King wasn't afraid to. He knows exactly how to give away the right amount of details about the being, right? So there's sections in it where you're inside of this thing's head, this Lovecraftian entity. You're inside of its head, right? And so obviously its thoughts and it's the way it thinks is very, very, very strange and very, 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 very just odd and weird. And it's thinking about how it had always been. And what the thing that stands out about the monster, the creature, so much is its arrogance. It thinks, I have always been. I cannot be hurt. I've been here since the dawn of time. These humans are nothing to me. But it's also feeling emotions for the first time, and it's angry, it's angry, it's angry because the children made it fear it. So it's really interesting to see how an eldritch horror reacts to feeling fear for the first time, to feeling pain for the first time. It's a really interesting idea. And that's the thing about a lot of people throw around the word copying, like, oh, so and so copied this guy and did this guy. And that's true sometimes. But this is how you Stephen King, that's how you're inspired by someone and then you like expand upon the idea. Because Lovecraft would have never done that, right? Lovecraft would have never taken you inside of the head of the creature, right? But Stephen King did, and it was still scary. And I think that's for that Stephen King will ever be a master. Stephen King will ever forever be a master. What is the key about? It's the key to my heart, baby. You want it? Somebody gets it. I'm just kidding. All right, guys. Just take a pause right there. Thanks everyone for watching. We've got like 600 people watching, guys. So if you're enjoying the stream so far, please hit the like button and yeah, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. If you want to support me and support this channel, you can send in a donation of any amount is accepted to the paypal.me link in the description. It's greatly appreciated. And you can send me like a message and I'll read it out on the stream, ask me a question, whatever. And yeah, just thanks. Someone says imitation is the highest form of flattery. Lots of times as well. Someone says Stephen King said that Randall Flagg in The Stand was Nyarlathotep. I didn't know he said that, but that's so true. Now that I think about it, so Randall Flagg is a character, the Dark Man. He has many different names. He shows up in Stephen King's work, and he's always interacting with humans, like sewing, doing lots of awful, evil stuff. Nyarlathotep in Lovecraft's body of work is the only one of the elder beings that can be called an old one that communes with humankind on a regular basis and even walks among them at certain times. So Nyarlathotep, he appears in a bunch of different stories. He actually appears in the one I just mentioned, which is the Dream Quest for Unknown Kadath. In fact, that's a good one actually. I won't spoil exactly what happens in the end of Dream Quest for Unknown Kadath, but he appears in that one, and yeah, he's just kind of like a trickster. He's kind of like a trickster. If you wanted to make a comparison, think of him as like the Peter Baelish almost of Lovecraft's body of work, right? But of course, obviously, Peter Baelish is not a god, is not literally not Nyarlathotep, but yeah, you can think of him that way. Another super chat. Thank you so much, Travis Hammer. Have you read King's short story, Jerusalem's Lot? It's a prequel to Salem's Lot and explains why the town is evil, which attracted the vampire. It was his most Lovecraftian story. I've never read Jerusalem's Lot. Oh my God, that's something I need to get on. I have read Salem's Lot is so scary and I love it. Jerusalem's Lot is a good one for sure to read. That's on my list for sure. Actually, I've actually been on a huge Stephen King kick because I've just been like getting into like a lot of his recent work and like really like rediscovering him again. And yeah, he's always loved Lovecraft and it's all there. Okay. Someone says, I think nobody told Baelish that exactly. Yeah. Someone says Unknown Kadath is extremely difficult to read, translated in Spanish. Yeah, I'm not a person that speaks multiple languages, so I wouldn't know. But like, yeah, that's a thing too. That's why I highly recommend this book. This has, let me see which stories this one has in it specifically. Because when it comes to like adaptations of Lovecraft's works, even like graphic novel adaptations, some of them are bad. And I'll give you an example of a bad one. Which books? I wish it told me which specific story this one has. This one has At the Mountains of Madness. It has Dream Quest for Kadath. It's got It's got a few of the popular ones. I can't. It's not the pages are marked for some reason. It's annoying. But yeah, check this out. If where am I getting at? Yeah, Lovecraft likes to use weird words, and it's kind of hard to read sometimes if you're not like used to it. So check out this adaptation of Coolbert, right? This is a I think this book was like 15, $20 on Amazon or something, and it's actually like a graphic novel interpretation of some of his most popular stories. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them in there. Then also I can't recommend enough the Call of Cthulhu by the Behringer version of Call of Cthulhu, fully illustrated. This this like it brings a whole new life to the story. I look at it all the time. This is my preferred method of like absorbing the story at this point. So yeah, it's full page art, so it definitely helps the story like flow and like just go and make a lot more sense for those of you that might not be as familiar or adapted to reading Lovecraft's writing style. Andreas Gillo says some words just can't be translated. Yeah, I imagine that is the case. I imagine that is the case. So it looks like I got a PayPal from Keith Adkins. Thank you so much, Keith. Greatly appreciated. And another PayPal also from, let's see. From Thomas Kelly. Thank you so much, Thomas Kelly, for your PayPal. So thanks everyone that has sent in donations. It's greatly appreciated. This was a nice recommended stream, Eagle Bearer says. Thank you so much. Do I have people here that are new to the channel? Is my stream actually getting circulated around the place? Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, this stream is basically it's a prelude to a lot more Lovecraft work that I'm going to be doing on this channel. I've always been a fan of the work of Lovecraft, and some of you that have been watching me for years know that because I always mention him in relation to other stories, especially A Song of Ice and Fire. There's even elements of Lovecraft's work in Dune, right? The great entity, right? That the great enemy, I mean, that the Honored Matres ran away from. So in Dune, you have humans going out into deep space, and then at some point they all run backwards. And it's like, why are you guys, what are you running from? And it's some kind of great entity, a great enemy that they're running away from that they cannot mess. Like, this thing is so deadly, whatever it is, we got to run away. So yeah, I'm not gonna say what that is because I have ideas about what it is, but like the mystery of it is very Lovecraftian. The idea that there's something waiting. What is out there? What is out there? So that's just really great. So welcome, new guys. Oh, wait, so we got a lot of new people. That's super awesome. Please subscribe, please like, and comment on the stream afterwards. Welcome all. Someone says I have been subscribed for years. All right. Welcome all the noobs. All of you are greatly appreciated. Let's see. Oh yeah, I was gonna mention. Yeah, I said I forgot to do this. I was gonna say there are good adaptations of Lovecraft's work in graphic novel form, but I gotta hate a little bit. All right, so The Call of Cthulhu, a graphic novel, Dark Tales, adapted by Dave Shepard. Look, Dave Shepard. We need to talk. What is this? This is awful. All right, look. I don't know what this is supposed to be, but this is not The Call of Cthulhu. Uh, just like if you like, yeah. I want to make sure, don't buy this one. If you see this one and you're thinking like, oh, let me go like read The Call of Cthulhu in a graphic novel form, it'll be cool, please don't do it. I don't know whose idea this was, but it's like they've taken The Call of Cthulhu, which is one of the most terrifying H.P. Lovecraft stories, and they've turned it into almost like a kid book. It's like a kid book, and they've added like these other plot lines and like added like different points of view, and it's just really not great, not well done in the slightest. So yeah, avoid this one. I'm sorry, Dave Shepard, but please don't make any more of these. Stop screwing around with the work of Lovecraft. This was not scary at all. They removed anything that could have made it even slightly scary or edgy. It's like all of the The mystery is gone, and even like the way that it's, even just the art style just sucks. It's not scary. Ugh, just trash. And it's like when you have a story like The Call of Cthulhu, right? And I was saying this to Dave, my roommate. When you have a story like The Call of Cthulhu that has survived the test of time for so, there's a reason that people still talk about that short story because it's terrifying and it's good. You read it and you're immediately captivated. You're immediately compelled. It's good. You don't need to change it. You don't need to add an extra plots. You don't need to make it. Yeah, I'm doing a very in-depth video on the Call of Cthulhu. That's my next major work that I'm going to put out. But basically, let's talk about that one a little bit because I wanted to say this earlier because I always say this is the one. If I had to recommend any story of Cthulhu to get in immediately, it's this one because everything about Lovecraft that makes him famous and essential is in this story. The idea of the waiting evil gods. It takes place. The fear of the unknown is there. Looking into the abyss, and going mad. It's in there. Just the fear of just everything that makes Lovecraft famous is here. The cults, mention of the Necronomicon. It is absolutely the essential body of work, and yeah, it should not be messed with. And shame on Dave Shepard. Shame on Dave Shepard. Shame on you. So someone says Arkham Asylum in Batman was inspired by Lovecraft. That's really cool. That's really, really cool. So I should talk about this. A film that I watched that was definitely Lovecraft inspired recently. Well, not even recently. Like I would say, like within the last couple of years, was a movie called Annihilation, right? And it was think color out of space. And actually, we will talk. We're going to talk. Okay, like remind me, guys, after I talk about Annihilation, to talk about Color Out of Space, the Lovecraft adaptation. All right, we're going to talk about that one. But first, let's get into Annihilation because a good movie versus the bad movie. So Annihilation, right? You have something that lands from the stars, and then we don't know what it is, mutates everything around it. Just we don't understand it. People are going mad when they are near it. It's crazy. Some kind of entity is there. And it's affecting everything around it. It was really, really good. So that's a recommendation of like a Lovecraft idea that was kind of well done. Then we have The Color Out of Space, right? And I have to say, I'm sorry, but a lot of my audience recommended this Color Out of Space film to me. And if you don't know, The Color Out of Space is one of Lovecraft's it's one of his most famous short stories. You have something falling out of the sky, and you have a guy that's called to investigate it, and he's found that like the people have gone mad. It's like affected the plants and the animals, and it's just really, really scary. The movie, not so much. All right, so let me get the super chat real quick. And Monk Ismos says, "In Prison with Pharaohs is my favorite Lovecraft story, and Harry Houdini inspired parts of it. Found you through Angie Speaks." Thanks. Oh, Angie. Angie is a great friend of mine. But anyway, I have no idea how you can take The Color Out of Space, such a cool, spooky, weird Lovecraft story, and make it so unbelievably not scary and just plotless. It's like that's the thing that like you always know with okay, if you're gonna make a movie, if you're gonna take a short story, The Color Out of Space, and adapt it, make it like a quiet mystery that's like dark. I don't need this like goofy family dynamic with like Nicolas Cage screaming about alpacas. Oh my god, it was so stupid. It ripped off every single horror movie that I could think of. It ripped off The Thing. It ripped off Carrie. It ripped off every horror trope imaginable, and it didn't even have the essential parts of Lovecraft's work that make him so scary, right? So it opens up, you've got like the daughter character, she's like a witch or something, and at some point she's like opening up like a Necronomicon book for dummies or something, and she's like doing some kind of incantation and like carving like a pentagram into her chest, and you think, okay, she's gonna awaken some kind of eldritch monster and it's gonna take over, and this is where it gets good. This is where like the movie kicks off, but nothing happens. literally the result of her like ritual was nothing. And then you have like the mom character and the son character who get combined together and like they become like a weird thing monster and they start flapping around. It's that's not Lovecraftian. Where's the waiting entity? Like where's the sense of coming dread? Where's the sense? Okay, look, I think this is what I need to say. In Lovecraft's work, one of the things that makes it very, 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 very scary is the idea that there is intelligent malevolence just waiting to pounce, right? And that is one thing that this movie did not have at all, right? It was just like confusing, plotless, and stupid. Nicolas Cage screaming about a bunch of alpaca. What was the point of the alpacas? Like, what was the alpaca thing? I just don't even know. That was awful. Why did you recommend it to me? It was terrible. It wasn't the color out of space. It was stupid. I hated it. I just had to get that one off my chest, guys. I don't know how any of you liked it. It was just bad. It's bad. And I think that if I didn't know what Lovecraft was and I had never watched or heard any Lovecraft, and then I watched the Nicolas Cage Color Out of Space movie, I I wouldn't want to read any Lovecraft because if the rest of the work is that bad and that terrible, then ugh. And then at the very best, even if you like remove it being a Lovecraft thing, even if it wasn't a Lovecraft thing, the movie itself was bad. The characters, no depth, the development did not exist, totally inconsistent, and then nothing made sense in the end, and it was just dumb. All right, so that is my review of The Color Out of Space, the film. I give it a 2 out of 10. All right, so I got another super chat. Thank you so much for your super chat, Pompous Altmer. I always wanted to get into Lovecraft, but I never knew where to start. What would be a good book to start out with? By the way, I love your channel. Keep up the good work. Well, as I keep mentioning, I've mentioned this a few times in this stream. I absolutely think that if you are new to Lovecraft and you want to start off just on one story to get you in, Call of Cthulhu. If the Call of Cthulhu does not hook you, I don't know what will. All right, let's open it up actually. Like even just like the first part of Call of Cthulhu is so good. Uh, Listen to this. I'm just gonna read you the opening paragraph of Call of Cthulhu. Right? Listen to this. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance, in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. The sciences, each straining in its own direction, have hitherto harmed us little, but some day the piecing together of dissociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and of our frightful position therein, that we shall either go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. So, right there, he's talking about there are mysteries, there are secrets in the world that are so great and so unnerving that the idea of them being public knowledge would destroy civilization. I mean, and you think that might be out there, like, oh, there's nothing that we could find certain proof of that would destroy civilization and send humankind. Yes, it could, right? Let's say if we discovered one day, beyond a shadow of a doubt, right, just like 100% proven that there was like a giant monster, like the size of 12 Jupiters, surrounding the Earth in another dimension, and it was about to eat us in like 50 years, and we knew that, yeah, the thought of that being the truth would probably destroy civilization and destabilize everything. So it's best that we shouldn't even know it. So it's that's one of the ideas too. It's like the idea like there's certain things that are so bad that maybe like we shouldn't even know about it. And maybe that's true to a certain extent, right? It's like in movies and stuff, like whenever there's like an asteroid headed towards the Earth, they never tell the public, right? Because it's like, oh, what are they gonna do? They're just gonna like go crazy and start looting and whatever. Like if we knew that there were monsters and that at any point they could just come and take us over, almost like I think people would feel like nothing mattered, right? I hear people, I'm an agnostic, right? So I've heard people of faith say to me some certain times, like, oh, if there's no like God, wouldn't you just like go around killing and murdering? I mean, I wouldn't. But like the fact that there's people that would even suggest that is like, oh, that's a little weird. So I certainly think that if people thought, oh, life is meaningless, we're just, as the Mountains of Madness suggests, we're just like the residue of like some old being. We're not special at all. I think, yeah, certain people would find that very, 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 very difficult to accept. And once they did accept it, it would break their sense of who they are, break their conceptualizations of reality. It's like Darwinism. It's like the idea of evolution to some people is so hard to accept because it takes away, like, humans like to think of themselves as like the center of like the universe, like the center of everything. Like God made us in his image. We are special. But Lovecraft says, no, 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 no. You are not special. In fact, you're the opposite of special. You're totally insignificant. You're scum. You are the residue. You weren't even meant to be created. Like you're the residue of like things that we created to serve us. So I was like, so yeah, it goes that deep. It goes that deep. I don't even know how I got on that subject, but it's just oh, it just goes in with love.
Can I
The
just
rest
chime
of
in
Lovecraft,
that
absolutely.
the, the people that live inside of talking Rick and Morty here, Rick's battery has a civilization inside it that produces electricity all just to power Rick stuff. Like the moment that they realize that that's all they are, of course, there's
Yeah.
like 3 layers of it. I guess it's kind of the same, right?
It is the same. It's the horror of realizing that, like, oh, this is what life is.
We're just like tools or feeding stock.
Exactly, 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 exactly. So I've got some new PayPal donations. Thank you guys so much for continuing to send in your donations with your messages. So I think I got Keith Adkins earlier, so thank you again for that. But I got another one from Mark Northcott. Thank you so much, Mark, for your PayPal donation. And anybody can send in one of those, and you can leave a message in the link in the description. Wait, does it pop up here? I don't know if it pops up or not. Okay. So Mark Northcott says on PayPal, he says, I met Frank Herbert in the 80s, got a book signed, and asked the dumb question, what did you think of the movie? He said, too short or too long. I can't remember which. That's pretty freaking funny, and that's a pretty accurate interpretation of the Dune movie for sure, for sure. Thank you so much for that, Mark. All right, let's see. Let's see what else do we got to mention. Actually, I did want to show you guys. I absolutely wanted to show you guys another book that was influenced by Lovecraft, but this book in particular uses the work of Lovecraft in a very, very interesting way. So this is a book that I read recently last year. It's called Monstrous, and I will just find this page real quick. I should have bookmarked this before the stream, but like you guys know, I'm so like I'm scatterbrained. But essentially, this is a fantasy world created by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda, and there's lots of different races of beings, but at some point there were the great old ones, as they called them, and these old ones had dominion of the earth long ago, and they still exist on the earth in shades, right? They appear randomly. It's like these shadowy apparitions, but it doesn't seem as though you can talk to them or connect with them in any way. And so in Monstrous, you have the main character who is, oh, here they are. These are their shades. And as you can see, this book is beautifully drawn. You see the shades of the great old ones that have moved on. In Monstrous, they're imprisoned in another realm of existence. But in this story, our main girl, Monstrous, she's actually bound to one of these Lovecraftian beings. She's bound to it. And it gives her powers, but it also has to feed. It also must consume. So she's constantly needing to consume. And it's very great horror, but at the same time, and this is what I mean about new authors being able to come into these Lovecraftian ideas and just take them to a whole new place. At the same time, also what Stephen King is doing, we're introducing these Lovecraftian eldritch horrors, but she's also humanizing them. The one that's attached to our main character here is a character in and of itself, and it's so brilliantly done. So you can take these ideas, these the idea of like a it's not exactly clear in the beginning. There's definitely like the horror of like trying to figure out what exactly this thing is. Is it evil? What is it? But yeah, once it unfolds, it's very 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 well done, very well done. So yeah, that's another example of someone taking Lovecraftian ideas, doing a whole new twist on it. And also, Lovecraft isn't the only thing inspired that Monstrous has. Monstrous has it's got Lord of the Rings, it's got A Song of Ice and Fire. This is let me just talk about how good this book is. On top of like being Lovecraft inspired, this is one of the best graphic novels that I have ever read. Period. Monstrous is oh god. If Tadia could be like even like this art, can you believe this? Yeah. So yeah, check out Monstrous. Lovecraft inspired, fantasy inspired, great horror, great book, great characters. And I did get a few super chats while I was talking about Monstrous and the Lovecraft influence that's there. So Minch Man says, "You've inspired me to read Dune. I've gotten 450 pages in a week and a half. Thanks, man. That is epic. I'm so glad that I have inspired you to read Dune, and I'm so glad that I inspire you guys to read anything, you know. You know, the whole reason that I started this channel was because was because I would talk my friends and people I was dating, I would talk their heads off about fantasy books that I loved. Right? It started with A Song of Ice and Fire when I really started to reread A Song of Ice and Fire in my 20s because I read it very young. I think there was like three or four books out when I first started reading A Song of Ice and Fire when I was very young, and then I picked it up again in my 20s, and it like lit on fire for me in a whole new way. And so I would just talk people's heads off about it. So I was like, I got to start a YouTube channel and just start and talk to people about it. But then it, of course, as you guys can see, we've evolved this channel and we're doing more things with this channel, and it's doing really, really great. And I'm happy that you guys are here with me and enjoying it with me. Good versus evil. No, Lovecraft is more bacon versus necktie. Let's talk about good versus evil. Actually, let's talk about that because that's actually not something that Lovecraft is dealing with. It's not about. It is absolutely not about good versus evil. Um, because can you really call them evil, right? This entity any more than humanity as an entity is evil, right? Because if you think of humanity as like an organism, we're destroying the earth too. This is like, what do you mean? Like we're totally destroying the earth. This is 130 degrees in Death Valley the other day, like the hottest recorded temperatures on planet Earth since like it's in a really really long time. So yeah, we're destroying the earth too. So it's not about evil; it's about coexistence. Um, whatever they are, um, the way they exist is just does not jive with the way beings like us exist. Um, and we talked about what exactly the old ones are made of. They're not made of matter, at least not the same type of matter that we're made of. Um, they're made of something else um, that allows for them to be able to travel through stars. And then also, there's a scene in the Call of Cthulhu where the ship actually moves through him, and it's described as it's almost like they're moving through like a gaseous cloud, and it smells like an endless. It smells like endless underwater graves have been opened. Just like the most horrible smell you could imagine as they're moving through it, and they move through him, and he just comes back together like nothing happened. So he's not made up of matter in the same sense that we are. Whatever he is, it's not like us. It's not like us. All right. And then also, let's talk about this too, because I didn't get into this. Lovecraft loves to talk about dreaming gods, right? And he talks about their language being a language of thought. And then he also talks about, I said this earlier, he calls Cthulhu specifically the Great Priest. And he talks about Cthulhu's spells being the spells that are the ones that are preserving the old ones, right? So it's his power, his spells that are doing that. So I think about dreaming. What is he doing by dreaming? I think Cthulhu is just communing with the ethereal plane, doing something else. He's probably existing somewhere else in some other form while he's not on Earth. Because I mentioned Stephen King's It as well, and like how I said, I don't believe that the children killed it, whatever it is. I think they killed the physical form that it took while it was on Earth. And it, as in the consciousness of it, always would exist somewhere else. But it needed a physical form. It needed a physical form to exist in if it was going to live in our dimension. That's the thing. So it's kind of like, I imagine the consciousness of these types of beings is actually being projected from some other place, which is why they cannot die. Right? So when the stars realign, they're not dead. They cannot move. Like if you look at if you look at the art, because Berenger's art is really good. So let me just show you that. I'll show you Berenger's art to maybe get a better example of what I mean, because we see the deep ones and Cthulhu sleeping. Siona girl. Hey, sweetie.
This is Siona. Hey, girl. You want to stick her in your room?
Yeah, please.
Come on, girl.
She's just sleeping.
I'll give her some passports. Come here, girl.
Mm-hmm. So you see here that Cthulhu is sleeping. Sorry, my dog just busted in. She's like, I'm tired of hanging out outside. I want to come in. It's dark now. All right. So you see Cthulhu here sleeping. And you get the sense, like, I kind of lost my train of thought. We were talking about consciousness being projected from another place, right? And that these physical bodies don't really, they're these physical forms. Like what we see, this winged thing with the tentacles, it's not actually what he is. Whatever he really is somewhere else. Just like the creature in Stephen King's book, whatever he really is, it is somewhere else. And it just, in order to interact with us, interact with us on a physical plane, it needs a physical body. And that's just all there is to it. Oh, girl. All right. She'll be quiet. She's always going to bark one time in protest. Someone says, you always struck me as a bird guy. Well, there are birds in the house. There's some birds in the house. There's some birds in this house. Yeah, it's our perception of it. Yeah, that's the thing. See, that's the true thing as well. Perception, right? Perception. Let's actually find the section here where Cthulhu wakes up, because he's actually described in a very, 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 very interesting way as far as his form and as far as like what the men see when they look upon him. So let's do that and get into that a little bit. Let's do that and get into that, because it's really, really cool. Let's see. It's right around here. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Here we go. Let's get into this. Okay. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So you have in Call of Cthulhu, you have this monster being accidentally awakened by totally innocent men. And so this is what they hear and see and experience as they stand on the city of R'lyeh, which has risen again to the surface, the once sunken city. And they're staring down into the depths to endless blackness. Everyone listened, and everyone was listening still when it lumbered slobberingly into sight and gropingly squeezed its gelatinous immensity through the black doorway into the tainted outside air of that poison city of madness. So, right, guys, I just want to tell you, it's it with a capital I. Right, so it's it. So you want to know where Stephen King got it from? There you go, baby. He refers to Cthulhu right there as it with a capital I. So let's just read it again. Everyone listened, and everyone was listening still when it lumbered slobberingly into sight and gropingly squeezed its gelatinous green immensity through the black doorway into the tainted outside air of that poison city of madness. And then it goes on. So this is what I'm reading here. I'll get it in a second. What I'm reading here is our main character in the Call of Cthulhu reading or trying to interpret what a madman wrote. So let's just to give you context of what I'm reading from. Poor Johansson's handwriting almost gave out when he wrote this. Of the 6 men who never reached the ship, he thinks 2 perished of pure fright. So two of the men die before they even get to the ship just from looking at this thing. All right?
Yeah, give me a passage to read while you.
Okay, yeah. Keep reading. Yeah, start with poor Johansson. There you go. And then continue on to the next page as well.
Perfect.
So Dave's going to read a little bit of that section that I was talking about.
Hello. Poor Johansson's handwriting almost gave out when he wrote of this. Of the 6 men who never reached the ship, he thinks 2 perished of pure fright in that accursed instant. The thing cannot be described. There is no language for such abysms of shrieking and immemorial lunacy, such eldritch contradictions of all matter, force, and cosmic order. A mountain walked or stumbled. God! What wonder that across the earth a great architect went mad, and poor Wilcox raved with fear in that telepathic instant. The thing of the idols, the green, sticky spawn of the stars, had awakened to claim its own. The stars were right again, and what an age-old cult had failed to do by design, a banner of innocent sailors had done by accident. After vigintillions of years... Wait, no.
Lovecraft.
Yeah, vigintillions of years, great Cthulhu was loose again and ravening for delight.
All right. That's probably good enough.
All right, there we go.
All right.
Thank you. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Whoop.
Peep my colorful shorts.
Yeah, peep the colorful shorts, baby. So absolutely, you can see how the creature itself is described, right? They see it, but do they really see it? They see it, but they're kind of like, what am I looking at? I don't understand what I'm looking at. It's like a contradiction of like, it's like it's there, but it's not there. They're seeing it, but they can't comprehend it, right? So let me just go back to that page and go over those words again. Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
You know, this would actually make a good drinking game. Reading random Lovecraft quotes and seeing like how many stumbles.
Yeah, that
As you get more
vigintillions.
drunk.
That vigintillions word is like,
Now?
like what? Yeah. See. Yeah. Here, the thing cannot be described. There is no language for such abysms of shrieking and immemorial lunacy, such eldritch contradictions of matter and force. Right. Again, where do you think Stephen King got it from? So we see him as this giant winged thing with tentacles, but that's just the closest thing that our minds can come to interpreting what it is that we're actually seeing. There is no language to describe all of the sculptures that were carved in of Cthulhu through the years. That's just an interpretation of what we thought we were seeing. But whatever he really is, whatever even that form is, we can't see. But whatever he really is, I imagine is even beyond that. But even that form, to look upon it, to some is death. To look upon it, to some is madness, right? But like, what is guaranteed is that if you look upon it, you're never going to stop seeing it. There's no one that looks upon the face of Cthulhu and is safe, right? Even Johansson, who ends up, who gets out unscathed, is never fully free. It's never fully free because he has seen it. He has looked into the eye. He has looked into the eyes, into the face of an eldritch horror. All right. Lies in Politics says, thank you so much for a super chat, by the way. Check out the Lovecraftian Science WordPress blog. It elaborates on the interdimensionality of Cthulhu. That's actually an interesting concept. Cool. Something I think about a lot reading Lovecraft's work, because it's like, you assume we see these beings in a physical form, semi-physical at least, but it's like that's not what they are. It's definitely not what they actually are. Because I think one of the most important things, they are beings of thought. They communicate to thought. That is their most essential form. thought and consciousness. So, Kyle Crane, thank you so much for your super chat. Thank you for doing this great stuff, and thanks everyone that is watching and listening. Oh, it looks like I got another super chat that I missed. One more. You should check out The Keep by Paul. You should check out The Keep by F. Paul Wilson. There's actually a terrible 1983 film adaptation directed by Michael Mann. The book is great, though. I never, I am not the type of person that judges a book off of a movie. I know as a fan of horror and as a fan of George R. R. Martin and as a fan of Stephen King that movie adaptations are rarely as good as the book. It has never been adapted well. The miniseries of Stephen King's book, It, was fun for what it was, but not the book. The new movies were worse in my opinion. We can talk about that a little bit. The new It movies, as a whole, I feel like were worse than the old one because it was like you had an opportunity to go into it. It's 2020. Humanity is growing up. Give me some cosmic horror, but they were afraid. Like the first movie had no gore. It wasn't scary. I don't know how you keep doing cosmic horror and not making it scary. I get that it's difficult to do, but it's like, I mean, I feel like people aren't trying. They keep trying to, whenever I feel like these executives say, oh, we're going to do some cosmic horror, some Lovecraftian style stuff, they always feel like they need to water it down. And they always end up removing everything that actually makes Lovecraft work and that actually makes Lovecraft scary. And I'm just not a fan. Not a fan of the way it's usually handled. For anyone, thank you so much, Spaz Tickus, for your super chat. For anyone who's new to Lovecraft, check out the H.P. Lovecraft Literary Podcast that began going through every H.P. Lovecraft story in order. Definitely check them out. Check them out for sure. And I'm just going to check my thingamajig before. It looks like I've got some PayPals that I'm not seeing. Sarah Gray, thank you so much for your PayPal. You didn't leave a message, but thank you so much. And thanks everyone that has sent in donations, guys. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you. I can't thank you guys enough for supporting me and supporting my YouTube channel and supporting me in my endeavors and allowing me to live and talk about books. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Javin says, I love your videos. Well, I love you. I love you guys. I love the fact that I can get up here and talk about Lovecraft. All right. So we've been going for an hour and a half. We still got a little bit more to talk about, I think.
Did we have started something? People are worshiping Garth at 20 minutes past the hour on multiple streams and channels now. It's not even 4:20. It's just like 20 minutes past the hour. Praise Garth! Praise Garth!
Praise Garth.
I was saying that Garth might pop into existence because of all the belief in him. It might cause him to actually exist, which would be cool.
That's an interesting thing too. Speaking of that,
make God Cernunnos again.
Yeah, so that's the thing. That's an interesting point about belief, actually, because I said that the gods don't care about humans, the Lovecraftian gods, right? The humans are just they do what we need, and I think that is true. But I do think that there is something that they need from conscious beings. There is something that they require from conscious beings, something that feeds them, right? Belief, worship. That is why they spoke mysterious smoke. That is why they spoke to the first men in their dreams. That is why they created a cult and made sure the cult would never forget and kept the arts, because belief in them is powerful, right? So we did a discussion on the last stream about the monster in Stephen King's It, and about, like, we talk about, oh, it eats people, but does it really eat people? Does it need to actually eat, as in eat physical flesh? And if you really pay attention, it doesn't. It doesn't need to eat. It bites and it'll rip out a chunk of meat from someone when it's killing them, but that's just because the perception that we have of monsters is that what a monster does when it takes you and drags you into its lair is it eats you. That's our conceptualization of what a monster does, but it's really the conscious energy that it's feeding on, the fear and the belief that it's feeding on. So yeah, you talk about, it said in the section that Dave just read from the Call of Cthulhu, right? It mentions very briefly that no wonder at the same time that Cthulhu woke up that a bunch of people had all these uneasy dreams and it and an architect went mad and a boy went into a coma and started screaming and all that junk. It's because these gods are communicating. They're doing something to him. When Cthulhu woke up, human felt it. Humankind felt it. There's a reason, I think, specifically that it says when the gods wake up, it'll be a time where humans are reveling in pain and murder and violence and all that stuff because that's what they feed on. I think they need it. I think they need the pain. I think they need the chaos and they need the belief. Right. And that's like an essential point. Right. And I don't I that's something that as we continue this Lovecraft journey and as I continue to dive more into the work of Lovecraft, I'm gonna look for signs of such things because the cults and the nature of their worship and the Necronomicon. We don't know everything about its origins. We know that it was written by the Mad Arab, but it was divinely inspired in the same way that they say the Bible is divinely inspired. It was divinely inspired by the great old ones in some way, and so it's kind of like instructions, right, on how to worship them and how to awaken them. There's things that they needed from humanity. It says specifically that there were. I said this earlier. When the stars were right, there were arts which could reawaken them. Arts. It doesn't say they just wake up themselves. It says they were arts. And what ends up happening, it says what a cult. Well, I won't spoil that, but yeah, arts. So yeah, they needed them. They needed their worship. They needed their belief. Just like the thing in Stephen King's It needed the worship. It needed the belief. It needed the fear. Right? So yeah, the Mad Arab Abdul Azarad. What a great name. What a great name. Okay. Now where were we? So how's everyone doing? Let me look at the chat again. Hopefully I didn't miss any chats. But looks like I did. I missed a super chat from Adam Wolford. I don't Hollywood. I think you mean I don't think Hollywood will be able to do justice if they ever at the Mountain of Madness they would turn it into a dumb action movie. Let's hope not. Apparently, wasn't it Del Toro that wanted to do At the Mountains of Madness, but he ended up not doing it because of freaking Ridley Scott's Prometheus movie, which is like, I like Prometheus, but it's like, Prometheus is like, yeah, Prometheus is like, it has the ideas, but it doesn't go forward with them. And I would love to see, can someone like, I mean, there's like 500 of you here. Like, can you guys like go to Guillermo Del Toro's like Twitter and be like, hey, we still want to see your At the Mountains of Madness movie. Like, forget what Ridley Scott was doing. We want to see what you were doing. Because like it's the idea, the whole thing about Prometheus is that like Earth was seeded long ago by these beings from outer space, and that's what we are. But the Mountains of Madness is like it's that idea, but it's like it's a Lovecraft baby, and it's scary. It's a scary story. Like I said, I did a video about it. It's about a quest to Antarctica, and there's secrets discovered there. Dark, terrible secrets. Yeah, Del Toro needs to get on it. Del Toro, come on, man. I love me some Guillermo Del Toro. He's the one. I would love to see him do some Lovecraftian things. Yeah, Netflix, get on it. Netflix is always throwing money at freaking Stranger Things. Oh yeah. Oh, that happened organically actually. Stranger Things. There's some Lovecraft for you. There's some. Oh, we're gonna. Okay, yeah. Let me make a note as well. We're gonna talk about some more. Okay, yeah. Stranger Things. Type that, and then also another Netflix thing, Lovecraft, that I'm going to talk about. That wasn't done well at all. So yeah, Stranger Things does the Lovecraft thing kind of right with the upside down and wada wada wada. I don't really like Stranger Things that much. I kind of feel like it's a little bit derivative. It's not my deal. But yeah, they do the thing with like the horrors that wait in the upside down, the monstrous things that can drive you mad, and oh yeah, if these things escape, it'll be horrible. Yada yada yada. So Stranger Things does that, but it's kind of like it's like a light version of Lovecraft. They never go, they never fully go into the Lovecraft thing. I agree, Lemmy B. Stranger Things was cool for one season. One season. They should have just done one season. Here's the thing, people. Hollywood does not get it. No one ever gets it. Just do one season. Do one story of something. And then we don't have to see it go bad, because it hurts way worse when it's like it starts off a good show and then we have to watch like 4 seasons of mediocre to bad TV. Just do one good season that's like inspired and we like and we can get behind it, and stop like we don't need like 5 seasons of everything. It's so annoying. Or at least I heard the original idea for Stranger Things was to like do a different story every season, which would have made way more sense, but whatever. Yeah, they do Lovecraft stuff, but it's kind of like it's like baby's first Lovecraft, so it's never like fully going there with it, but just like little hints of it. But let's talk about something. Oh my god. I got this is so funny. I got into such a crazy funny argument with like some randos on Facebook. Always, right? Randos on Facebook when this movie was coming out, because I just was so exasperated because I did not know how people were thinking that this was a good movie. I'm going to tell you what movie it was. You probably can guess it before as I'm describing it. Um, I could not understand how people were thinking it was a good movie. It was a Netflix movie that was ripping off a bunch of Lovecraft ideas, but putting them inside of like this horrible, horrible, generic Sandra Bullock action horror tropey nightmare fest, right? And if you've seen the movie, you can probably guess what it was. It's called Bird Box, right? And it's an example of a concept that could have been interesting if it was actually in the hands of competent people. I feel like the core of the idea of this film Bird Box was pretty good, but the actual execution of the film was just horrible. So the deal with Bird Box was you've got beings that are appearing in Earth. And if you look at them, what's the deal? They make you kill yourself. It's like The Happening, basically. They make you kill yourself because they drive you mad if you look at them. And we know it's 100% that they were going on Lovecraft, because there's some point where a character is like drawing a bunch of what he's seeing, and you see like a bunch of like Lovecraft tentacle monsters and Cthulhu faces or whatever. But the movie itself was, it's like you have it right there. Focus on the cosmic horror of it all. Slow this down a little bit and like really get into what makes this scary. Something is invading the earth where if you look upon the visage of this terrible thing, it drives you mad. Like, but instead, they focused on all of these completely generic horror movie tropes where it's just like a bunch of people in a house, just so stupid. So I hated it. I don't even remember exactly what happens in it. I kind of blocked it out of my mind, but I just remember it being, oh, they're doing Bird Box 2. Are you kidding me? Please stop. Ah, God, please stop. God, that movie was dumb. That movie was dumb. And it was like the reason I get angry at these types of things, mostly because it's like when you have a core, when you have the core of such a great idea, like that Lovecraft idea of like you stare into the abyss and the abyss stares back. That's not Lovecraft's idea, that's Nietzsche, but that they were handling it in the way that Lovecraft handles it, right? Where it's like you're staring into the eyes of like some eldritch thing, which is beyond your comprehension. And the sight of it, it's so terrible, whatever it is. It's like, I don't want to be here. Like wherever this thing is, I don't want to be here, so I'm out of here. But like, it's so poorly done that it's like funny, right? It's so poorly done that it's funny, and like just like corny to the point of like it was just like, oh, I was, but like it was funny because I remember just arguing with some idiot on Facebook being like, how do you think this is a good movie? How do you think it's a good movie? And they kept being like, oh, you're just mad because it's like inspired. Not everything has to be exactly inspired by this. And I'm like, I'm not saying that. You can take something and be inspired by it. Hello, Stephen King. Hello, freaking monstrous, and then still tell a good story and be different and unique. But what they did was they took like a Lovecraft idea and then just, like I said, put it inside of like a generic horror movie, and it was just bad, and I hated it. I hated it. Hated it. There was a movie I watched called The Endless, which is about, actually, I don't want to spoil this one. A good Lovecraft movie you can watch, The Endless on Netflix. That one's really good. It's about these two brothers that go back to this cult that they escaped when they were younger. Um, and they rediscover, like, oh, wait, this cult actually was, you know, there's some Lovecraft stuff going on. That's really, really cool, I thought. And also in Uzumaki, Jungi Ito. Do I have that available? Where's my assistant? He's not over here. Well, yeah, there's a manga that I really like, Uzumaki, which is about the spiral. It's called the Spiral of Horror, which is definitely got a bunch of Lovecraft stuff going on as well. So that's really cool. But like I said, there's ways there's ways to adapt Lovecraft. I think it's possible. Adapting Lovecraft is possible, and it's been done. It's been done. Um, they haven't a lot of ways they haven't like adapted direct stories really all that well, but the ideas have been adapted well before. Yes, for sure. Someone just mentioned The Mist. The Mist is another Lovecraftian one. Um, Another Stephen King Lovecraft story about all these monsters that like break out of this. They escape from another dimension and they're just like out. It's a really good one, and everyone's like, "That's a really good one that you should read for sure." Write a screenplay, Quinn. Well, I don't have. I'll be right back, guys. 1 second, literally 2 seconds. Not literally, obviously, but as I was saying, guys, I have not written a screenplay, but what I did write, as some of you guys know, I did write my own graphic novel, which is like shipping in December, and we're so freaking excited about it. Tadia, I've got my own Lovecraftian elements in Tadia. You can check out. Tadia is still available. Somebody can post the link in the chat, but it's no longer available for the original price. It's a little bit more expensive now. I'm sorry, I know, but like the whole deal was when the campaign was on, then we got the lower price, and now that the campaign is finished, then it's a little bit more expensive. But yeah, you can still actually pre-order the hardcovers of Tadia, as well as the soft covers, and we're very, very excited to get this book shipped. So yeah, Tadia is my horror fantasy story about witches, and we're very excited. Definitely Lovecraft influenced, and a lot of other things as well. Oh, someone said The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse is. Can you guys convince my roommate Dave to watch The Lighthouse? Like, Dave, if you're in the chat, look, everyone wants you to watch The Lighthouse. Everyone just be like, Dave, watch The Lighthouse with Quinn. Tell him. Say, Dave, watch The Lighthouse with Quinn, because it's so good. So The Lighthouse it's got, I'm blanking on the names, Robert Pattinson, I think, Twilight guy, and then also Green Goblin. What's his name? I can't think of anybody's names. The Green Goblin from the original Spider-Man. Yeah, him. Willem Dafoe. So they're in this lighthouse together, and you've got the older guy, Willem Dafoe. He won't let the younger man into the lighthouse. There's something there, some kind of Lovecraftian entity that's there. That he just goes, he stares into it. He like there. Well, I won't spoil what happens, but there's Lovecraft stuff going on, and then it gets really, really interesting and really, really confusing, because it's like it's confusing for you because it becomes confusing for the characters. It's like, how long have they been on this lighthouse island? Like like what's going on? Are we going to be rescued? Is something coming? And it's just really cool. You don't know what's real. You don't know. It's a thriller. It's such a thriller. And I think The Lighthouse is actually based, if I'm not mistaken, The Lighthouse is based off um, an unfinished Edgar Allan Poe story, but then they took a bunch of Lovecraft elements and put into it. And there's actually a few versions of this movie, guys. The Robert Pattinson one is the one we should watch. I know there's been a few like trying to adapt this movie that have happened that haven't been good, but the Pattinson Defoe one is great, and I really, really enjoyed it. Definitely a weird take, an interesting take on some Lovecraft ideas for sure, for sure. And that's the way you got to do it, right? That's the way you do Lovecraft. It's not about like adapting his stories like beat for beat. It's about maintaining the spirit of the story, right? That's the thing with adaptations. Like sometimes you just can't adapt a short story as like a movie, right? Sometimes you just can't do that. So you have to change things and add things into them. The way you do that is not by making a crappy made for kid Cthulhu graphic novel that can go in the trash. Um, the way you do that is by staying true to the heart of it, staying true to the heart of the horror, and just adding in things that feed that, adding things that go with that, things that expand upon those ideas, even take elements from his larger body of work and put them in. Don't take things that don't exist and add a bunch of bull crap about alpacas, Nicolas Cage. Like, I am convinced that in that stupid Color Out of Space adaptation, Nicolas Cage just wanted alpacas for some reason and was just like, give us alpacas for no reason. Because it was literally like, why aren't they llamas or like sheep or literally anything but freaking alpacas? But whatever. Yeah. So I'm gonna put the question to you guys. Since we're on the subject of Lovecraft adaptations, have you guys seen any adaptations of movies or TV shows that are, if not straight up adaptations of Lovecraft work, have elements of Lovecraft work that are like kind of obvious or just like it's clear that this is like influenced by Lovecraft? So, do you guys have any examples? I'm sure you guys do. And there's a delay, of course. I gotta wait. And while I'm waiting, I see that we have gotten some donations from PayPal. Thank you guys so much. It's greatly appreciated. Let me just cover these.
We're talking about my prize-winning alpacas.
All right, Nicolas Cage. All right. Roberto. Hello, my dude. You didn't leave a message, but thank you so much for your PayPal of $5. It's greatly appreciated. Someone says just pulled it. Let me see what you guys are saying. In the mouth of madness. Okay, I haven't seen that adaptation. The Happening was one. The Happening is one that gets crapped on. That's the thing. The Happening is a better movie than Bird Box. M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening with Marky Mark is a better film than Bird Box. Absolutely. Let me go pet my doggy a little bit. She's sad. I'll be right back, guys. Dave, step on the screen and say stupid stuff.
Stupid stuff?
Or smart stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, that's much better. How's everybody doing? I'm enjoying this stream. You guys learning a bit? Of course, you guys know me. Lucifer Means Lightbringer. I have a YouTube channel. Lucifer Means Lightbringer. Song of Ice and Fire, Mythology and Symbolism. I am working on a couple of Euron videos right now. And of course, Euron is one of the key places where Lovecraftian horror is channeled into A Song of Ice and Fire. So I'll have a video out in the next week. Euron Part 1, King of the Apocalypse. And then Part 2 will be Night's King Crow's Eye. So if you guys, again, if you're a fan of those two genres, or not genres, but authors, George Martin, A Song of Ice and Fire, and Lovecraft, you will enjoy the Euron videos. And then, like Quinn was saying earlier, we're going to do a joint live stream to sort of expand on those ideas. And a lot of the stuff you said today, Quinn, definitely have my gears turning as far as the old ones being beings of thought. And we're talking about, are there sort of spiritual elemental beings alive in A Song of Ice and Fire? Spirits of some of the original dead figures like Night's King or Azor Ahai or Night's Queen or Nissa Nissa, are they lurking in the astral realm? Are they, what are the gods in A Song of Ice and Fire? Like, we know the old gods are actually green seers. So is the Great Other or R'hllor some sort of entity instead of just the abstract idea of a god? Perhaps it is some sort of ancient being or the spirit of an ancient person. Yeah, you're totally good. And we're talking about, will someone get a hold of these beings in A Song of Ice and Fire? Euron is obviously a great candidate to do that since he has Cthulhu-like squid face. And let me just scroll the chat up here so I can say hi to everyone. Yeah, so I'm having a great time doing those Euron videos and, listening, because Quinn's been reading Call of Cthulhu, like I said to you guys. And so listening to his thoughts as he's been reading through the book has been really interesting and has definitely given me some ideas. The more I think about this idea of Azor Ahai or Night's King being alive in the Weirwood net, the more I like it, and the more I think that we're going to see something like that. But, you were talking about, Lovecraft stories being adapted, And it just occurred to me that really it's the feeling of Lovecraft stories, and I'm sure you covered this, that's really the biggest influence. And anytime like you read the prologue of a Game of Thrones and that terror and shock that they feel about the others, one of the Night's Watch brothers who escapes comes back to Winterfell and he's almost senseless to the point where he can't even describe what he's seen. He's sort of just babbling incoherently. His brain has been just fried by what he's seen. That feeling, it's so perfectly channeled in Lovecraft stories that it sticks with you as a writer, as you know, George Martin or anybody else. And so then you write your own stories, and when you want to tap into that sense of awe before the terrifying unknown, you fall back on ideas from Lovecraft. So his influence is pervasive no matter how many of his stuff is adapted or not. But thanks for letting me sit in, buddy.
Good stuff, Dave. So that was Dave, my roommate, good friend, dropping the Song of Ice and Fire knowledge. Looks like I got a couple super chats while I was gone. Roberto says, the idea of gods needing people to believe in them is explored in much of Gaiman's work. Absolutely. Neil Gaiman, American Gods. If you have not read American Gods, check it out. You can also watch the first season of the TV show if you want. Second season was not good in my opinion, but yeah, the book, really, really good. Definitely the idea of gods needing worship and feeding on that, needing it to exist. It's definitely there. And like I said, I think Gaiman was definitely inspired by Dream Quest for Unknown Kadath when he wrote Sandman. All right, next super chat, Josh Blackburn says, In the Mouth of Madness is fantastic, not inspired by Lovecraft, but Event Horizon, Just Cause. Excellent. Excellent.
Oh, I love
Definitely
Event
check that
Horizon.
out. Yeah, that's a creepy one. All right, From Beyond, even the first Ghostbusters. Have I seen From Beyond? I feel like From Beyond is something that I might have seen at some point, or at least heard of. Yeah. Okay. So what was I just talking about though? Before I walked away, we were just getting into me dissing Bird Box a little bit more. So we were talking about Lovecraft adaptations and how much I hated the god-awful Bird Box movie on Netflix that took all the Lovecraft ideas and kind of crapped on them. Real quick, thank you so much, Carrie Pigeon. Carrie Prigion. Thank you so much for your PayPal donation of $10. I've been working on a Lovecraftian sci-fi novel for a couple of years. It's really difficult. I'm sure it is really difficult to write in that genre. Lovecraft was a master of it for sure. But anyway, let's continue crapping on the dumb Bird Box movie, like I was saying. Another super chat. Dang, I missed that one too. The book Lovecraft Country by Matt Ruff is amazing. Why I'm excited for the show, but all Matt Ruff's books are amazing. I'm definitely going to read that one. That's like next on my list, guys. Like as soon as I finished 11/22/63, I'm getting on Lovecraft Country. And then I'm going to definitely do a review of that one for you guys on here. Anyway, The Happening. So someone mentioned The Happening as far as like movies which are inspired by Lovecraft's work. So The Happening, if you don't know, and M. Night Shyamalan got a lot of crap for The Happening, right? And I feel like, can I just say this? M. Night Shyamalan gets way too much crap for some of his movies, right? Lady in the Water is a great movie. The Village is a pretty good movie even. Like, okay, Avatar, not good. Avatar's bad, whatever. Avatar's bad. Like, The Happening, not that bad. It wasn't that bad. It was a little like silly, but Bird Box is way worse. And I don't get why people praise Bird Box, but The Happening is bad. When Bird Box is like literally on the backs of The Happening. Like that's literally the story of The Happening with like a Lovecraft thing thrown in. So it's just like people hate on M. Night Shyamalan way too much, but whatever. It's not like a great movie, but it's like not as bad as people say. And then like, yeah, so whatever. The crappening, they say. Yeah, Avatar was not his genre. He shouldn't have done Avatar. That was like that wasn't good. I he took it's true. He took the L with Avatar. Avatar's a bad movie. Avatar's a bad movie. And then like Village is okay, and Lady in the Water is pretty good if you understand it. Lady in the Water, I think Lady in the Water suffered. Signs is really good. Signs is really really good. Signs is a great movie, and then so is Sixth Sense. But Lady in the Water, if you like, I feel like it was marketed wrong. It was marketed as like this horror thing when really it should have just been marketed as like an urban fairy tale, which is what it is. I got to show you that one, Dave. Lady in the Water.
Take that up.
Oh my goodness, Siona, my puppy's crying. So guys, we're gonna go for maybe 15 more minutes. I got to put my babies to bed. It's been a great stream. If you guys have any more questions about Lovecraft, we definitely, like I said, we're going to be talking about Lovecraft way more on this channel. I'm going to be reading Lovecraft Country as soon as I can so I can review it for you guys on this channel. And yeah, our next major video essay is my big Call of Cthulhu video project. And what we're getting into with this Call of Cthulhu video is basically we're talking about, you know, the real horror of Cthulhu and what he really means and what it represents. And we're getting really, really deep into this, the layers of it. We're relating it back to what's going on in the world right now and real world things. We're talking about the legendary bloop. I'm sure some of you know about that, the big sound that came from the ocean that was really confusing several years ago. And a lot of people thought it was Cthulhu waking because it was in the same part of the ocean. So we're going to talk about that in the video. It's just going to be, I'm really, really proud of this video. It's multifaceted. And I'm really excited about my approach to it. And I think a lot of you are really going to appreciate it. So yeah, lots of Lovecraft work coming from this channel in the future. Like I said, check out the Lovecraft playlist on my channel. There's a couple videos in it already. The Mountains of Madness video that I did, the video essay, and then also the podcast episode I did with Order of the Green Hand a couple of years ago. And then also there's my A Song of Ice and Fire mini video series, the Ones Who Move the Pieces, the Great Game, right? That one is me talking about a lot of the Lovecraft stuff in A Song of Ice and Fire. But anyway, Adam Wooford says, the first Dead Space game and the lore is no doubt Lovecraft, but the second and third games aren't as good as the first. Interesting. I've never played that game. But I imagine that a game called Dead Space would have some Lovecraft stuff if it was actually doing, you know, its thing, right? Because that's the thing about space. I mean, space, and Lovecraft honed in on this, space is scary. Space is a dark, terrifying place. We can't exist in it. All right. So we got, it looks like I got another PayPal donation. Thank you so much, Jason. The Case of Charles Dexter Ward is my favorite Lovecraft story. Love the channel. Congrats on Tadia, by the way. Thank you so much, Jason, for your $10 PayPal. Thank you guys so much, everyone that has donated to this channel. I'm so impressed by you guys. I'm so happy that you guys are feeling me and enjoying the discussion. Thanks everyone that has sent in super chats, and thanks everyone that has donated through the paypal.me link. And by the way, the paypal.me link is the best way to get donations into this channel, and I appreciate them all. I couldn't more. The Void. Let me make sure The Void is the film that I am thinking about, because I think I saw that one. The Void. That was the one. Oh, I didn't see this one. This isn't the one I saw. Should I watch The Void? Is The Void good? Is The Void good? I think I was thinking about something totally different. Yeah. Should I watch The Void? Brother Moon, someone says, of course, you think I haven't seen The Abyss? I've seen The Abyss, obviously. The Abyss is a classic science fiction film. It's great movie.
Of course I've seen The Abyss. What do you mean I haven't seen The Abyss?
Bloodborne is definitely super Lovecraft. That's another game, isn't it? Another game I haven't played. Someone says Dune or Riot. We talked about Dune a little bit. We talked about even the ways in which Frank Herbert pulls from some of those Lovecraft feelings, right? When he talks about the great enemy, because we talk about, like, at some point in the Dune universe, humankind like flees into space, and then about 1,500 years later, they come back running away from some thing in outer space. And so the mystery of that, the mystery of like something so strong that the new human empire fled it into the old empire from outer space is very, very compelling and very, very scary. Someone says the void is okay, the void ain't bad, the void is fun. Cool, cool, cool. Maybe the void is one that I'll check out. Someone says, did Dune get delayed? Not that I know of. Not that I know of. But Dune is possibly delayed. I mean, it's still slated to come out in December, December 18th. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't see it in December 18th, guys. I don't think we're getting it. I think it's going to be a next year thing.
Can I jump in on the super chat that somebody just sent in?
Sure,
It's a
Diego.
great question.
Diego, thank you so much for your super chat. I'm not sure what current currency that is, but thank you so much. Have you ever thought about how many mythos in history repeat certain beats and how both fantasy and sci-fi repeat those same beats? Do you think that in the future people will consider these stories as their own mythos of this era, even though it's not religious?
Absolutely. And we're both fans of Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell talked a lot about how, mythology, there's mythology for every culture. He talked about Star Wars as modern mythology. I actually have an essay called George R.R. Martin is Writing Modern Mythology. And one of the key functions of myth is that it's highly symbolic and metaphorical and attempts to speak to the core of human existence, the core questions that apply to all humans across culture and time. And every religion and every culture has mythology, and certainly the stories that we all, I mean, all the stories like Song of Ice and Fire or Dune, they have all the archetypal actions and characters of classic mythology. And yeah, so it's really, I think about it as a chain of transmission and a tradition of symbolic storytelling that skilled authors are participating in, that goes right back to classic mythology. So great question.
And about like eras of history too, it's like it's impossible to like see the era that you're in while you're in it, right? You have to like look back and be like, oh, that was the 2000s. Because if you look back at the 2000s now, it's totally like an era. But like when you're in it, it's like, oh, like what is that?
And the further
like,
we get from the 90s, the more it becomes obvious how freaking cool it was.
Yeah. It's like here we go back
Thanks
a
for
little bit.
letting me put my word in there.
Yeah, but absolutely. But yeah, myths and legends and stuff evolve. I don't know if future generations will see our stories as see them as though we believe them. I think they'll have enough information probably to know that they were just stories to us. But yeah,
They worship this Luke Skywalker guy.
Yeah, we'll definitely develop. Oh, like there was a Spider-Man in New York City. Yeah, he saved them all the time. Not sure where Metropolis is though, or this Wakanda place. That doesn't seem to be on the
It
map.
was only Batman that kept society from chaos in the late 20th century.
Thank you so much for your super chat, though, Diego. And Travis Hammer, thank you so much for yours. Conan smoked Lovecraftian monsters like it was a buffet. Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard, and Clark Aston Smith were pals, and their works overlapped a lot. Cool. So I think you mean Conan the Barbarian? I've never actually, I think Conan was a little before my time, so I never really experienced Conan. But yeah, that's really, really neat. Like Lovecraftian monsters are so interesting. Like it's a lot of people use the old ones a lot. It shows up in a lot of places now, like from South Park to A Song of Ice and Fire to Monstrous to Stephen King to my own graphic novel Tadia, which you can pre-order right now. Someone can post the link in the chat. But yeah, it's all over the place. And like I said, Lovecraft, his work has stood the test of time. People are talking about it today because it was good and it was scary. So the thing about the man is, we talked about in the beginning, he was a strange man. He was a xenophobe. He was an agoraphobe. He was weird with women and all that junk. But he also wrote very, 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 very scary stories and very, 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 very good stories, right? And if the stories, he was never famous or rich while he was alive. He was kind of a loser his whole life, never famous or rich. It wasn't until after he was dead that people found his stories again, and now he's a legend of horror. So posthumously, he influenced the entire horror genre. If you are a fan of horror right now, and you're like, Lovecraft had something to do with it. So that's why, to me, it becomes even more ridiculous when we start talking about, let's cancel Lovecraft and let's stop reading Lovecraft because, oh, he had certain beliefs and certain this. Like I was saying in the beginning, no one ever talks about Walt Disney. It's very selective to come to Lovecraft and be like, oh, he's particularly bad, when there is nothing in his work in particular that's like awful. He's not like talking about like white supremacy or any of that stuff. It's just scary stories. Very, very, very scary stories. And they've stood the test of time because they're very scary. They're very good. And yeah, that's what I got to say about all that. And also, as I said before, the guy is freaking dead. The guy's been dead 100 years. Maybe it would be another thing if he was still alive or like he was a modern author, but he's dead. He died young. He's been dead for a very, very long time. And buying the work of Lovecraft, reading the work of Lovecraft does absolutely nothing to support him. And all it does, and really it just expands your like it expands your idea of what horror is.
And you put
And
it
it's entertaining.
really well at the beginning of the stream. So for anybody joining late, you addressed it pretty eloquently at the very top. So
Yep, so check that out, guys. So a couple more super chats. The King in Red from Dark Tower series feels H.P. Lovecraft. A lot of stuff from Dark Tower seems Lovecraft because I think that's Stephen King showing like I think one of his main influences. And I guarantee you, I've never heard him. I don't know if I've ever heard Stephen King specifically mention Lovecraft as an influence, but I'm sure if anyone's ever asked him, he said it because it's very, very obvious to anyone that's read the work of Lovecraft.
a few people are piping up to say that there's a certain amount of changing his views towards the end of his life that happened. I don't know about that.
I don't know for sure, but
People
that
are
might be
saying
possible.
that did happen.
Mm-hmm. All right. So someone says, if you want an introduction to Conan the Barbarian, check out Midnight's Edge retrospective. I like that channel a lot, actually. Midnight's Edge. They did a good Dune one, I think, as well. It is a good intro to the material, including how it adapted during the years. Well, cool. Thanks for letting me know about that. And Ben Frail, Lumley's Primal Land books equals Conan meets the mythos. Interesting. Thank you all for your recommendations. They are greatly appreciated, guys. And looks like someone else just piped in on PayPal. So let me get that. Patrick Gentle, thank you so much. Says Quinn, check out Die Far by director Han Vu. It's on Amazon Prime. All right, I have Amazon Prime, so I can definitely check that out. I'm always looking for great movies to watch at night and like just wind down to them. Who influenced Lovecraft? You know, that would actually be Cthulhu. He spoke to him in his dreams. No, but that would actually be a cool thing to do some research on, actually, and maybe possibly do a video on maybe like his influences, because everyone has their influences. Everyone is influenced by someone else. There's nothing that happens in a vacuum. Human beings are always influencing each other constantly in ways that you don't even realize consciously most of the time. So yeah, everyone's influenced by someone else. And let's see, you guys got any more questions? Any more PayPal hits? And feel free too, if you're watching the stream afterwards, to like hit up the PayPal thing afterwards. If you've got more questions, I'll try and get them on the next stream or on Twitter. And also, guys, please follow me on Twitter. Can some of my mods please post my Twitter in the chat? I'm sorry, guys, with StreamYard, it's really annoying because you have to constantly like re-update your the description, and I'm not sure if it's a way to make it default, so I never have my links ready. So please follow me on Twitter, guys. I'm always like chatting about different books and different things. And subscribe, of course. Please, 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 if you've been enjoying the stream so far, please hit the like button. I've had so much fun telling you guys about Cthulhu and Great Old Ones and the work of Lovecraft. It's been so great. But yeah, I'm going to see if there's any more straggler questions to get, any more interesting things to be said from people. I know some people were saying they wanted to take a look at some of these Lovecraft editions that I have over here. So I'll show you guys these. So this is the Lovecraft Complete Fiction that I have. So this is all of his stories. Let's see. This one's really, really nice. I really, really like the feel of this book. I think I got this one from Barnes & Noble. So that's that one. Completed one. There's so many different completed Lovecraft bound editions. Like, it's so hard to pick which one you want. Like, every time I see a new one, I'm like, I need it. Pin donated 100. I did. We got it, didn't we? We got it. We got it, Mod Mary.
Yeah, we
didn't
got that.
We got that one. Yeah. Thanks, though. Thank you so much. Okay. So, and this is the other one that I have. I really, really like this little blue book here, this Cthulhu Mythos one. It feels really nice. And on the back of it, it says, the oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear. And the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. And you know, that's Lovecraft, man. He was, like I said, he was afraid of things that he didn't know. And right, a lot of you said he started to change later on in his life. I haven't looked into that, but yeah, that fear of the unknown shows up in his stories. And that's a fear that everybody has, honestly. If anybody's honest, most of us fear the unknown, right? Because like you don't know. So it's like we're kind of afraid of it. And you honestly, you should fear the unknown. Me and Dave were talking about the astral plane. And like if the astral plane existed, like every other place in nature, the astral plane wouldn't be safe. So you wouldn't just go like journeying into the astral plane because there might be predators there. There's predators in every part of nature, so why not on the astral plane? The unknown is scary.
Sorry, I thought that was one of the good parts of Game of Thrones when Bran is wandering around in the Weirwood Net realm, and then all of a sudden there's the army of the dead and Night King.
Oh yeah.
And Bran doesn't know everything. He doesn't realize, oh, they can see me. And like that was a pretty well done scene.
Yeah, the unknown is scary for a reason.
Oh yeah, Moorcock for sure. Yeah, there's some Lovecraftian feel vibes to Moorcock quite often, I've noticed.
The Elric of Anonymity stuff. So also looks like I got another super chat as well. Lies in Politics. Kenneth Grant, real life acolyte of Aleister Crowley. Ooh, that's interesting. Claimed Lovecraft was subconsciously channeling occult forces. Now that's scary. The idea of that is scary, right? The idea like, oh, they're just horror stories, but no, actually this is real shit, and he was warning us.
Lovecraft? Some demon of the fifth circle whose name we can't pronounce.
Honestly, guys, you're gonna love my Cthulhu video because I talk about this phenomenon that happened in the real world, this big sound that came out of the ocean in the late 90s, and we didn't know what it was for a really long time. So we talk about that a little bit. You can see on the front of this one, it's got all these names. It says like Ancient, Dunwich, Azathoth, a bunch of like quotes. Poison, City of Madness, that is not dead, which can eternal lie. With strange eons, even death may die. I really, really like this little one here. In his house at Relay, Cthulhu waits dead dreaming. Yeah, so I really, really like this one. Check out all those.
One does wonder how somebody comes up with all of that sitting in their bedroom.
I know, he was channeling some dark stuff. Like, what's that one? This one's good. Lonesomeness waits and dreams in the deep. Ooh. Oh yeah, that's one that I wanted to read to you. It sounded so freaking Greyjoy. That was some Greyjoy stuff, man. It's right before that part where he says, "Lonesomeness waits and still dreams in the deep." That's from Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, I don't know where it is. It's somewhere here. It's really, really scary. Freaky line though. Freaky line. Yeah. Lonesomeness dreams and waits in the deep. Yeah, I gotta find it at some point. That'll be in the Call of Cthulhu video anyway. So yeah. But what was I just doing? What was I just getting at? I feel like I was about to say something else before that. Anyways, I think it is about time, guys. It is about that time that we wrap things up. Thanks everyone for. Looks like I got another super chat though. Marvin Martin.
Martin.
Some eldritch stuff seems more supernatural and godlike. What is the difference then? That's the thing. When it comes to Lovecraft, it's almost like there almost is no difference, right? It's very, 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 very. It's blended almost. You can't really fit Lovecraft in with like sci-fi or fantasy because it's like there's beings from the stars, and there is like.
And how would you go about defining the concept of a word God, like across all cultures and times? Basically, it's some sort of being that exists outside of our dimension or outside of our understanding. That's probably like the most base level definition of the word God. And that's what all these beings are.
People worship the sun. Like, so can you imagine like things whispering to you in your dreams and leading you to idols that look like them?
I mean,
Like,
I can. That happens to me all the time.
yeah. So like, the thing about gods, they're not gods in the sense that like, in the way we might traditionally see divinity, they are just extremely powerful beings that are beyond this, so they're worshipped as.
Yeah, I was trying to say that like the word God is what we use for extra dimensional beings when they become so powerful as to defy comprehension. Then it's not
Absolutely.
a demon or an angel; it's an actual like a god.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like the winged bat things that show up in Cthulhu, those might be demons. Cthulhu is very, very clearly something else. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks to everyone that has hit me up on PayPal. It's so greatly appreciated. Thanks everyone that has please like if you've enjoyed the stream. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed. Check me out on Twitter. One last time, I just got to say I'm so excited that my graphic novel Tadia is moving forward. We raised more than 50,000. We raised like $55,000 on Indiegogo to get this book made, and you can still pre-order it right now. Someone has the link in the chat, please. It's my own horror book. As a fan of horror and as a fan of fantasy my whole life, obviously I wanted to give my own take on horror, and I'm obviously on the backs of like the people that have inspired me: Stephen King, Neil Gaiman, Lovecraft, George R. R. Martin, as well as various other inspirations. So you can check out my graphic novel Tadia. I'm sure someone has the link in the description, or you can go to quinnhoward.net, my website, and you can get to it from there. Also, my website, guys. Oh yeah, that's the thing. Become a member at my website, quinnhoward.net. I'm giving away a free book of Tadia every single month. Every single month, members of my website, and it's totally free to join it. Every single month, a hardcover of Tadia gets given away randomly to members. So yeah, you can totally join for free. quinnhoward.net, become a member, and I'll be giving away free books and junk. So yeah, that's how it goes. But yeah, the book won't be releasing, shipping out until December. It's in the pre-order phase. We're getting it out. We're finishing it up, doing all the logistics. It's really, really good. So yeah, thanks everyone. And also, the book will be on Amazon at some point, and once it gets on Amazon, like in maybe 6 months, maybe longer than that, maybe like 8 months, 9 months, once it's on Amazon, it will be cheaper than it is on the Indiegogo page right now, because initially the book was $15 for the paperbacks, but now the prices have been raised since the campaign is over. So we had to raise the prices because that's just the way the business works. Whatever. It was already really cheap. But thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for sitting here with me and having the Lovecraft discussion. I can't wait to talk about more Lovecraft stuff with you guys in the future. And the Call of Cthulhu video is coming for my Dune fans. The Chapter House video is coming after that. And I appreciate you guys, and I love you. That is not dead, which can eternal lie. And with strange eons, even death may die. Peace out.